The Galactic University was unlike anything humans had ever seen before. It was not a single building, but a cluster of towers floating around a shining white star. Each tower spun slowly, connected by bridges of light like glowing threads woven through the fabric of space. To the alien students who gathered there, it was the greatest place of knowledge in the galaxy. To the new human students, it was both strange and exciting, almost like stepping into a dream. The university had one simple purpose: to bring together young minds from across the stars. Here students studied science, engineering, diplomacy, history, and even survival. It was the meeting place of hundreds of species, each different in size, shape, and culture. Some were small and covered in fur, others tall with translucent skin that shimmered under the lights. There were beings with 6 arms, some with tails, and others who floated instead of walked. And now, for the first time, humans from Earth had been invited. Earth had only recently joined the galactic community. Many species considered it a strange world, dangerous and unpredictable. Its storms were violent, its oceans deep and wild, and its jungles filled with predators. Scholars gave Earth a special name, a Deathworld. To most galactic species, such a world was unthinkable. They came from planets with mild climates, calm ecosystems, and safe environments. Earth, by comparison, seemed like a nightmare. So when the human students stepped off the transport ship, the eyes of the university turned toward them with curiosity and doubt. There were 5 human students in total, chosen carefully from different nations on Earth. They wore simple uniforms and carried bags over their shoulders. To the aliens, they looked soft-skinned and fragile. No claws, no scales, no heavy armor, no wings, just ordinary creatures with 2 arms and 2 legs. Many whispered among themselves, "Are those the humans?" One insectoid student clicked, its antennae twitching. "They don't look like survivors," another muttered. "How can such fragile beings live on a death world?" "Perhaps it is a mistake to admit them," a third alien said quietly. The humans noticed the stares but smiled politely. They were used to being underestimated. Since the beginning of their space travel, they had already learned that most aliens thought humans were reckless, too bold, or simply too lucky to survive. Inside the university hall, the head instructor welcomed everyone. His voice echoed through the chamber, calm and firm. "Students, you have come from across the stars to learn together. Here you will not only study knowledge but also test your skills in survival. For the galaxy is not always safe. You must be prepared." At the mention of survival training, many alien students straightened proudly. Their species had long traditions of teaching survival as a science, how to calculate risks, how to use tools, and how to prepare equipment for hostile environments. It was considered a respected art. The humans listened silently, but inside they were curious. Survival for them was not a special subject, it was everyday life. On Earth, even a walk in the forest could be a lesson in danger. People had lived through hurricanes, deserts, snowstorms, earthquakes, and wild predators. Every culture carried stories of survival. That evening in the dormitory, the humans gathered together. "This place is amazing," said Daniel, a tall boy with dark hair. He pressed his face against the wide glass window, staring at the stars. "I feel like everyone is watching us," replied Aisha, a girl with sharp eyes and a confident smile. "They are," said Mateo, the youngest of the group. "They don't think we belong here." "Let them think that," said Hannah, the calmest among them. "We'll show them soon enough." Jared, the last of the group, laughed. "Yeah, just wait until we get to the practical lessons. Then we'll see who's really prepared." They all knew the first test would come soon, and they were ready. The next morning, the class gathered at the simulated hazard dome. It was a massive building shaped like a silver sphere, its walls glowing faintly. Inside, it could create realistic environments for training: jungles, deserts, storms, or even alien predator attacks. Alien students arrived in full gear. They wore exosuits with scanners, oxygen tanks, protective shields, and heavy boots. Some carried advanced survival kits packed with electronic tools. They looked like explorers preparing for war. The humans walked in with only their simple uniforms and light backpacks. A ripple of laughter spread through the alien crowd. "Are they serious?" a reptilian student hissed. "They don't even have breathing masks," another said. "They will fail before the first hazard begins," a third sneered. The instructor raised his hand. "Silence. The simulation will begin. Remember, teamwork is key. You must reach the beacon at the center of the dome. Good luck. The walls shimmered and suddenly the dome transformed. Trees rose from the floor, their branches twisting high above. Strange animal cries echoed. The ground turned muddy and thick fog rolled in. The test had begun. Immediately, panic broke out among some alien groups. A huge predator appeared, its glowing eyes cutting through the mist. The students screamed, activating shields and scanners, but their technology only confused them further. The humans moved differently. They didn't panic. Daniel pointed quickly.
Climb that ridge, higher ground!
They scrambled up the slope using hands and feet, while the predator snapped at others below. From above, they threw rocks to distract it, guiding the other students away. Next came a sudden storm. Lightning struck, wind howled, and the rain poured in sheets. Alien equipment sparked and short-circuited. Masks clogged with mud. Many students struggled just to stand. The humans, however, leaned into the wind, shouting to each other. They pulled branches together, tying them with strips of fabric to form quick shelters. They laughed through the rain as if it were nothing new. Feels like home, Jared shouted. Just like camping back in Canada, or monsoon season in Karachi, Aisha replied, grinning. One by one, they guided alien students into their shelters, calming their fears. Finally, they reached the beacon. Other groups limped in late, exhausted and shaken. The instructors noted everything carefully. The humans stood there, wet but smiling, their eyes bright with excitement. To them, it had felt like an adventure, not a test. The alien students stared in disbelief. How could creatures with no special equipment or training walk through the simulation so easily? Some were angry, some embarrassed, and some simply confused. The instructor cleared his throat. Well done, humans. You completed the trial with efficiency and courage. He looked at the others. For the rest of you, there is much to learn from your classmates. That night in the dormitory, the humans sat together again. Did you see their faces? Mateo laughed. They couldn't believe it. They thought we were weak, Hannah said softly. But they don't understand. We come from Earth. We don't need special training for this. It's in our blood. Aisha leaned back, smiling. This is only the beginning. Next time the test will be harder. And we'll still be ready, Daniel said firmly. They all nodded, because deep inside they knew one truth. No matter how strange this galaxy was, humans were survivors. And sooner or later, the others would learn that lesson too. The first simulation had already changed the atmosphere at the Galactic University. The humans had surprised everyone. Many alien students who once laughed at them now spoke in whispers. Some whispered with admiration, others with jealousy, but none could ignore what had happened inside the Hazard Dome. Yet the instructors were not finished. The real training had only just begun. Arrival at the dome. The next morning, the students gathered again at the simulated Hazard Dome. This time, the instructors had promised a far more difficult challenge. Rumors spread quickly. There would be poisonous plants, unstable ground, sudden floods, and creatures that hunted in packs. Alien students arrived prepared. Their exosuits gleamed under the bright lights. Many carried scanning devices tuned to detect toxins. Others wore armored helmets to protect against falling debris. Their survival kits were heavier than before, filled with equipment for every possible danger. The humans arrived last. They wore the same light uniforms and carried only their small backpacks. No exosuits, no scanners, just water flasks, ropes, and a few simple tools. Once again, laughter rippled through the alien groups. They are foolish, a lizard-like student hissed. They think yesterday was skill, said another with 4 arms. It was only luck. This time they will fail, an insectoid student added. The humans ignored the whispers. They had heard it all before back on Earth. People had doubted them for centuries, and yet they had survived everything from storms and famines to wars and disasters. Survival was in their history. The lead instructor raised his hand and silence fell. His voice was calm but firm. Today's exercise is simple. Each team must travel through the simulation and reach the exit beacon. The environment will change without warning. You must adapt quickly. Teamwork will decide your success. The walls shimmered again and the dome transformed. The jungle awakens. The students now stood in a thick jungle. The air was heavy with moisture and every surface glistened with dew. Towering trees rose above them, their roots twisting across the ground like snakes. Strange calls echoed from the distance, low growls and sharp cries. The alien students activated their scanners at once. Beeping lights flashed across their visors.
Poisonous spores detected,
one shouted. Movement, large predator nearby. Another cried. Immediately panic spread. They tightened their protective suits, adjusted their helmets, and checked their oxygen supplies. Their fear was clear. The humans, however, breathed in deeply. Smells like the Amazon, Daniel said with a grin. Feels like a summer trek, Hana added calmly. Watch your step, Aisha warned. Roots are slippery. They moved naturally through the jungle, stepping over roots and ducking under vines. Their eyes scanned the trees, not with scanners but with instinct. They had learned to read the environment back home. Broken branches, disturbed mud, or sudden silence in the forest meant danger. First hazard, the poison plants. It did not take long for the first danger to appear. A group of bright red plants released a thick cloud of yellow spores. Alien students screamed, rushing to seal their suits tighter. Some stumbled back in fear. The humans covered their mouths with cloth, crouching low. Don't breathe deep, Hana said calmly. Short breaths. Stay close to the ground. They crawled under the cloud, using large leaves as makeshift masks. When they reached the other side, they shook off the spores easily. One alien student, however, panicked and tripped into the plants. The spores covered his suit, clogging his filters. He screamed for help. Without hesitation, Aisha and Jared rushed forward. They pulled him out, washed his suit with water, and guided him away until his breathing slowed. The alien stared at them in shock. Why would you help me? He asked. Aisha smiled. Because survival is not about leaving people behind. The alien lowered his head, ashamed. Second hazard, the predator. Packed deeper in the jungle, the growls grew louder. Suddenly a pack of predators appeared from the shadows, wolf-like creatures with glowing eyes and long claws. Alien students froze in terror. They raised energy shields, but the predators circled them quickly. The shields hummed, but they drained power fast. Scatter, someone shouted. No, form a line, another yelled. Confusion spread and the predators closed in. The humans, however, moved with purpose. Daniel grabbed a heavy branch, swinging it like a staff. Jared and Mateo picked up rocks, throwing them with practiced aim. Aisha climbed a tree, shouting warnings about the predators' movements. Anna directed them calmly, her voice steady. Don't fight to kill, she said. Just scare them off. Make noise. Show strength, the humans shouted, banged sticks and threw rocks. Their sudden aggression shocked the predators, who were used to prey running in fear. The animals snarled, circled once more, then slowly retreated into the shadows. The alien students stood trembling, their shields flickering. They had survived only because of the humans. Third hazard, the flood. Just when they thought it was over, the ground shook. A deep rumble filled the air. The earth split and water gushed in from underground streams. Within moments, the jungle floor was flooded. Alien students panicked again. Their heavy gear dragged them down as the water rose to their waists. Some slipped and shouted for help. The humans reacted instantly. Daniel pulled out a rope from his pack, tying it to a high branch. Hold on to the rope, he shouted. One by one, they guided both humans and aliens across the rushing water. Jared carried two smaller aliens on his back. Aisha and Hana tied makeshift floats from vines and logs. Mateo encouraged the frightened students, keeping them calm. By the time they reached dry ground, everyone was soaked and shivering but alive. The exit beacon, finally. Through the mist, they saw the shining exit beacon. Exhausted students dragged themselves toward it. Many of the aliens could barely walk, their suits damaged, their equipment useless. The humans, though tired, still moved with steady steps. When they reached the beacon, the simulation ended. The jungle faded, replaced once more by the silver walls of the dome. The floor was littered with broken gear, wetsuits, and exhausted faces. The instructor stepped forward, his expression unreadable. Students, he said slowly, today you faced poison, predators, and flood. Many of you struggled. Some of you panicked, but one group adapted. His eyes turned toward the humans. They used no scanners, no advanced suits, and no special equipment. They used instinct, courage, and cooperation. And because of that, many of you survived. The alien students lowered their heads, ashamed but thoughtful. The humans stood quietly, not boasting, but the pride in their eyes was clear. That night back in the dormitory, the humans sat together once again. Another day, another test. Jared said with a grin. They keep expecting us to fail, Mateo added. But it's just like home. Aisha smirked. Poison plants. We have worse back on Earth, predator packs, wolves and lions, floods. Every year in half the world, Hana nodded. We don't need training to survive. Survival is what Earth taught us from the very beginning. They laughed together, not cruelly but with the quiet joy of knowing the truth. Across the hall, alien students whispered again. But this time the whispers carried a different tone. Some spoke of jealousy still, but others spoke of respect. And some admitted, for the first time, that perhaps the humans were not fragile at all. The lesson was beginning to spread. Deathworlders did not need training, because their world had already trained them. The Hazard Dome had changed everything. Twice now the humans had faced challenges that others found terrifying, and twice they had walked through them with calm determination. For many alien students, the humiliation was heavy. They had trained for years in survival methods, memorized countless manuals, and relied on advanced technology. Yet the humans had outperformed them with little more than instinct and courage. Whispers spread across the university halls, whispers and doubts in the canteen. Groups of alien students gathered. Their voices were low but filled with bitterness. It is not fair, one insectoid student complained, his antennae twitching. We study for years, but they simply improvise. They don't even know the rules of survival, said a scaled student, slamming his tail against the floor. They only act reckless. They are not skilled, a bird-like alien added sharply. They are lucky. Nothing more. Some nodded in agreement. Others stayed silent, remembering how the humans had saved them from drowning or from the predator pack. The silence was louder than the complaints. Meanwhile, the humans continued as if nothing had changed. They attended classes, asked questions, and made friends with anyone willing to talk. They smiled often and carried themselves lightly. To them, the survival tests were not victories, they were reminders of home. But jealousy was dangerous. And it was growing. The new announcement 1 week later, the lead instructor gathered all students in the Great Hall. His voice echoed across the chamber. You have faced controlled simulations, he said. But true survival cannot be learned in safety. It must be lived. Your next test will not take place in the dome. You will travel to the moon of Dargon 4, known for its harsh storms and unstable weather. There you will survive for 3 days with your teams. You may carry limited supplies. You must adapt to nature itself. A wave of excitement and fear ran through the hall. The moon of Dargon 4 was infamous. Its nights dropped far below freezing. Its days burned with sharp heat, and sudden acid rain swept across its plains. The alien students looked at the humans. Some smiled coldly, believing this time the Deathworlders would fail. Real danger, after all, was different from a simulation. The humans simply exchanged glances. Aisha's eyes sparkled. Sounds like a camping trip, she whispered. Daniel grinned. Finally something real. Hana's voice was calm. Then let's be ready. Preparing for the journey, each team was allowed one small crate of supplies. Alien students filled theirs with portable shelters, advanced filters, thermal generators, and scanners. They argued over what tools to bring, debating weight against usefulness. The humans packed differently. Their crate contained ropes, water flasks, a few cooking pots, knives, and basic first aid. They chose lightweight gear, leaving space for food and warm clothes. When other students saw their preparations, laughter returned. They bring nothing but primitive tools, one said. They will freeze on the first night, another added. They will starve before the 3rd day, someone else laughed. But the humans did not answer. They had learned that words were useless. Only action mattered. Arrival on Dargon 4. The transport ship carried them to the moon's surface. As the ramp opened, a dry wind swept across the plains. The sky was a pale gray, filled with heavy clouds that promised rain. The ground stretched far and wide, cracked and uneven, dotted with sharp black rocks. Your survival begins now, the instructor announced. We will return in 3 days. The beacon will remain active. If you cannot continue, you may signal for rescue. But remember, failure is a lesson. Success is survival. The transport ship lifted, leaving the students alone. The group spread out, each heading in a different direction. The humans walked calmly, scanning the land with their eyes. Flat land is bad, Daniel said. Nowhere to hide when the storm hits. High ground for shelter, but not too exposed, Hana added. There. Aisha pointed toward a line of ridges in the distance. Caves, maybe. Let's go, Jared said. They moved with steady steps, already planning their first camp. The first night as darkness fell, the temperature dropped sharply. Alien students in other camps shivered inside their portable shelters. Many of the devices malfunctioned under the sudden cold. Batteries drained, heaters failed, and condensation froze. Panic spread quickly. Meanwhile, the humans had found a shallow cave in the ridge. They gathered dry brush and broken wood from the rocky ground. Jared struck sparks with flint and steel, and soon a fire crackled warmly inside the cave. They huddled together, eating simple food from their packs. Outside, the wind howled and frost spread across the rocks. But inside their cave, the firelight danced and their laughter echoed softly. Feels like winter at home, Mateo said, smiling. Except the stars are different, Hannah replied. They slept in shifts, one always awake to watch the fire. For them, it was natural. For others, it would have been unbearable. The acid rain the second day brought new danger. Clouds rolled in quickly, dark and heavy. The smell of chemicals filled the air. Then the rain fell, acidic droplets that hissed against the ground, burning small holes in the rock. Alien camps were thrown into chaos. Portable shelters collapsed under the corrosive rain. Protective suits melted in places. Students screamed, rushing to cover themselves, but many had nowhere safe to go. The humans had prepared differently. They had chosen their cave carefully, noting the slant of the ridge above. When the rain fell, it streamed away from the cave entrance. They stretched tarps across the opening and covered them with rocks, making the shelter stronger. Inside, they waited patiently. The hiss of acid echoed outside, but none of it touched them. Hours later, the storm passed. The humans emerged unharmed. Across the plains, they saw other camps destroyed. Alien students wandered helplessly, their equipment ruined, their bodies exhausted. Without hesitation, the humans helped. They guided some students into caves, shared fire, and gave water. Even those who had laughed at them before now clung to their aid. "Why do you help us?" one alien asked, his voice shaking. "Because we all survive together," Hannah answered simply. The predators of the night on. The third night, new danger came. Strange creatures, tall and thin with glowing jaws, crept from the shadows. They moved silently, hunting in packs, their eyes fixed on the weakest camps. Alien students screamed as the predators attacked, tearing through flimsy shelters. The humans heard the cries and rushed out with torches and makeshift spears. Firelight danced across the rocks as they shouted loudly, banging rocks together. Their noise and flames startled the predators, who hesitated. Daniel swung a burning branch. Jared struck the ground with a spear, and Aisha threw stones with sharp accuracy. The predators snarled but retreated, unwilling to face such strange prey. The aliens who had been attacked collapsed in relief. Once again, it was the humans who stood guard through the night while others slept in safety. Return of the ship. When the transport ship returned on the fourth morning, the scene was clear. Many alien students were exhausted, their equipment destroyed, their pride shattered. But the humans stood strong, tired but unbroken. The instructor surveyed the groups. His eyes rested on the humans, and for the first time a small smile appeared. "You have survived Dargon 4, he said. For some it was luck. For others it was struggle. But for one group it was instinct. The aliens lowered their heads, humbled. The humans simply nodded, knowing they had proven themselves once again. The lesson that night back at the university, the story spread quickly. Students who had once laughed at humans now spoke of them with respect. Some still whispered about luck, but others admitted the truth. The humans had not needed scanners, exosuits, or endless manuals. They had relied on their instincts, their cooperation, and their courage. For the galaxy, it was a lesson difficult to accept. For the humans, it was just another reminder. Survival was not a skill they learned in classrooms. It was the gift of Earth itself. And slowly, across the university halls, a phrase began to spread. Deathworlders don't need training. The training is already in their blood. The events on Dargon 4 had shaken the entire Galactic University. Alien students who had once prided themselves on their survival skills now walked the halls with quiet uncertainty. The humans had survived situations that would have broken even the most advanced exosuits. Their instinct, courage, and cooperation had left everyone speechless, but the instructors were not finished. They had one more test, a challenge designed not just to test survival skills but to reveal true character under pressure. A new challenge, the students were called to the central courtyard. In the center stood a large holographic globe of a distant planet, its surface marked with mountains, deep canyons, and stormy seas. "This is GalacticPrime," the lead instructor began. "It is uninhabited but extremely dangerous. Its storms can rise without warning. Its terrain is unstable and its wildlife is unpredictable. Your goal? Traverse the central plateau and retrieve the signal beacon at the northern peak. You will have limited supplies, no external help, and only your team to rely upon." Alien students nodded confidently. They had trained for these challenges their entire lives. They had survival manuals, advanced equipment, and complex strategies. Many whispered that this time, the humans would fail. The humans, however, listened carefully and smiled. "Feels like a mountain climb back home," Daniel said quietly. "And a little rain never hurt anyone," Hannah added. Mateo checked the supplies in their backpack. "We have everything we need. Let's do it." Arrival on GalacticPrime, the transport ship landed on a rocky plain. Sharp winds lashed against the hull, and dust swirled across the ground. The sky was gray and the clouds roiled with dark shadows. The northern peak of the plateau rose far above them, shrouded in mist. The alien students spread out immediately, each group moving in precise formation. They checked their scanners, activated shields, and began to climb carefully. Their movements were cautious but confident. The humans, in contrast, moved lightly and naturally. They examined the rocks, tested the soil with their boots, and adjusted their path without hesitation. "Follow the ridge here," Hannah said. "It's more stable than the center, and it will shield us from the wind for a while." Daniel nodded. "Good idea. Keep an eye on the clouds. Storms move fast here." The alien students watched, puzzled. How could the humans make decisions so quickly without calculations or advanced devices? The first obstacle, the rock fall. As they climbed, a sudden tremor shook the plateau. Loose rocks tumbled down the slope, striking several alien students. Their exosuits absorbed some impact, but many were thrown off balance. Panic spread. Some screamed, others froze, unsure where to step next. The humans reacted instantly. Daniel grabbed a rope from their pack, securing it to a large boulder. "Hold on," he shouted. They moved quickly to help others navigate the rocks, guiding them to safer paths. Aisha climbed a steep incline to assist a young alien student trapped on a ledge. Mateo steadied the rope as she pulled the student up. Jared kept watch, spotting falling debris and warning everyone in time. Hannah coordinated the team calmly, her voice steady even as rocks bounced around them. By the time the tremor ended, every student in their group was safe. The alien students looked on astonished. Their advanced equipment had not prevented accidents, but the humans' quick thinking and teamwork had. The storm breaks by late afternoon, clouds thickened, and wind picked up. A sudden downpour of freezing rain lashed the plateau, turning the rocky paths slippery and dangerous. Alien students struggled with their suits. Heaters failed, energy shields flickered, and heavy boots made climbing almost impossible. The humans were ready. They tightened the ropes across steep slopes, secured themselves and others, and used their knowledge of terrain to avoid the slickest paths. "This way," Hannah said, pointing to a shallow overhang. "It will keep us dry for now." They huddled together under the rock, sharing warmth and encouraging the exhausted alien students around them. For the first time, many aliens realized that survival was more than technology. It was instinct, strategy, and trust. The wildlife encounter as evening fell. A low growl echoed across the plateau. Shadows moved in the mist, revealing GalacticPrime's predators, creatures with sleek black hides, sharp claws, and glowing amber eyes. Alien students panicked, activating shields and scanners, but many devices failed in the storm. The creatures approached, circling the frightened groups. The humans acted immediately. Jared grabbed a torch, swinging it to illuminate the creatures. Daniel banged rocks together to create loud noise, while Aisha shouted warnings, directing everyone to safer positions. Hannah positioned herself strategically, ready to intervene if needed. The predators were cautious. They had never encountered prey so coordinated and loud. After tense moments, they backed away, retreating into the mist. The alien students who had once laughed at the humans now followed their lead, relying on them for protection. Building the shelter, night was approaching, and the storm showed no sign of stopping. The humans worked quickly, using ropes, tarps, and rocks to create a makeshift shelter against the wind and rain. They guided alien students to huddle together for warmth, teaching them how to make the shelter stable and safe. "Keep moving your feet," Daniel instructed. "It stops frostbite." "Watch for leaks here," Aisha pointed out, securing a flap. Mateo collected stones to reinforce the edges, while Jared tended the fire, making sure it burned steadily despite the wind. By nightfall, they were safe, warm, and dry. Many alien students could hardly believe it. They had equipment, training, and advanced suits, yet they had been almost helpless. The humans, with simple tools and instinct, had kept everyone alive. Reflection and respect. That night, around the fire, the humans sat quietly. They shared food, told stories, and laughed softly. Across the plateau, alien students watched, some in awe, some in silence. "This is remarkable," one insectoid student whispered to another. "They do not need technology to survive. They are fearless," another replied, "and careful. They think while others panic." The humans noticed some of the aliens observing them, but said nothing. They had learned long ago that respect could not be demanded. It was earned through action. Hannah spoke softly to her team. "They will learn. Let's keep helping them. Survival is not about showing off. It's about keeping everyone alive." The climb to the beacon. The next morning, the storm cleared, leaving the plateau wet and slippery, but manageable. The humans led the alien students toward the northern peak. Every step was challenging. Loose stones, sharp ridges, and sudden drops made the path dangerous. Alien students relied on their scanners, but many readings were false due to the weather. The humans relied on experience and instinct. They pointed out safe footholds, tested the ground before stepping, and encouraged the struggling students. Slowly, they climbed higher, moving as a team. When they reached the peak, they saw the beacon glowing in the sunlight. The alien students who had once doubted them now stared with wide eyes, realizing they had been led not by tools, but by the humans' courage, quick thinking, and teamwork, a lesson learned as they activated the beacon. The instructor's voice came over their communicators. "You have reached the goal. You have faced storms, predators, rockfalls, and darkness. Some relied on equipment. Others relied on instinct and courage. Remember this lesson well. Survival is not always about advanced tools. It is about knowledge, cooperation, and heart." The alien students lowered their heads, humbled. They had seen firsthand why humans from a Deathworld could survive challenges that others could not. The humans, however, remained calm. They smiled at each other quietly, knowing the truth. For them, this was not about pride. It was about proving what Earth had always taught them. Survival was in their blood, and they could adapt to any world no matter how harsh. A quiet victory back at the university. Stories of the humans' success spread quickly. Some alien students still whispered about luck, but many more spoke with admiration. They had been challenged, tested, and outperformed by creatures they had once considered weak. Across the galaxy, the phrase began to take hold. Deathworlders don't need training. The training is already in their blood. For the humans, it was not about fame or recognition. It was about proving a simple truth, that courage, instinct, and teamwork could overcome any obstacle no matter how impossible it seemed, and the alien students would never forget it. The Galactic University was quiet when the transport ship returned from SCIFI-Prime. The students stepped out slowly, weary, but alive. For many alien students, the journey had been a humbling experience. Their confidence, once strong and unshakable, had been replaced with quiet reflection. They had seen firsthand the skill, courage, and instinct of humans, and it had left a lasting impression. The humans, on the other hand, moved calmly. Their boots left marks in the dust, their eyes bright, their movement steady. To them, the journey had been challenging. Yes, but it had been no different than life on Earth. Survival, after all, was part of their nature. Returned to campus as the students re-entered the university. Whispers spread through the corridors. Alien students crowded together, exchanging looks of disbelief. Many had prepared for SCIFI-Prime for months, bringing advanced scanners, protective suits, and complex equipment. They had expected to succeed where humans might fail, yet the humans had not only survived, they had guided others, shared resources, and adapted in ways that left the instructors nodding in approval. One of the insectoid students, his antennae drooping, muttered to his friend, They They were not afraid. They didn't panic, replied the friend. Even when the predators came, even when the storms hit, they knew what to do. Alien students who had doubted humans now walked past them quietly, studying them with cautious respect. Some could not hide their admiration. The instructors speak. The lead instructor called the students to the central hall. Every eye turned toward him as he spoke. Students, he began, you have faced a series of tests designed to challenge your skills, your courage, and your teamwork. Some of you relied on technology, manuals, and preparation. Others relied on instinct, observation, and experience. He paused, allowing the weight of his words to sink in. The humans among you have demonstrated that survival is not always learned in classrooms or manuals. It can be inherent, shaped by the environment from which one comes. They have adapted, overcome, and guided others in ways that have not only preserved life but earned respect. Let this be a lesson to all of you. There was silence in the hall. The alien students shifted uncomfortably, some lowering their heads. They had witnessed the truth. The humans were not fragile, reckless, or lucky. They were survivors. Humility and respect. After the speech, the students returned to their dormitories. The humans settled in quietly, unpacking their simple gear and preparing for rest. Alien students approached slowly, some hesitantly, others with curiosity. An insectoid student stepped forward first. I underestimated you, he admitted. I thought you were weak. I was wrong, Isha smiled. It's okay. Many thought the same before. Another alien covered in scales added, you taught us that tools are not always the answer. For the first time, respect was genuine, not forced. Alien students who had laughed at them earlier now asked questions, wanting to learn. They wanted to understand the instincts, the quick thinking, and the calm coordination that had kept humans alive. Sharing knowledge over the next days, the humans shared small lessons with their peers, not in arrogance but in cooperation. They showed how to read terrain, how to observe weather patterns without scanners, and how to improvise tools from natural resources. They explained techniques they had used on GalacticPrime and in previous simulations, all grounded in common sense and practical experience. Alien students listened, sometimes skeptically at first, then with increasing interest. Many tried the techniques, often with surprising success. They began to realize that survival was not simply about technology. It was about observation, adaptation, and teamwork. Even instructors were impressed. They saw the humans as not just students but as living lessons in resilience and ingenuity. A new tradition. By the end of the week, the Galactic University had adopted a new tradition. Every year, the humans would lead a survival exercise, teaching alien students techniques that could not be found in manuals. It became a celebrated event, drawing crowds from other universities across the galaxy. The humans never boasted. They carried themselves with quiet confidence, focusing on helping others, sharing knowledge, and proving by example that humans from Deathworlds were capable of extraordinary survival. Alien students came to them willingly, asking for guidance. They learned not just to survive, but to adapt, improvise, and cooperate in ways that had once seemed impossible. The final challenge one day, the lead instructor gathered all students for one final observation. He wanted to see whether the lessons had taken hold. Today you will face a final simulation, he announced. It will be complex with environmental hazards, predators, and unpredictable changes. Observe and learn from your peers, especially those who have demonstrated extraordinary resilience. The simulation began. Alien students, now more confident but cautious, moved carefully. Yet they found themselves instinctively following the humans' guidance. When predators approached, they responded calmly. When sudden storms hit, they adapted. The humans led with subtle direction, never commanding, always helping, always ensuring everyone survived. By the end of the simulation, all teams had completed the course. Alien students emerged with renewed respect and understanding. The instructors nodded in approval. The humans had done more than survive. They had transformed the way the university approached survival training. Reflection. That evening, as the sun set over the university, the humans sat together on a balcony overlooking the stars. It's amazing, Daniel said softly. They're learning. They really are, Hannah nodded. They have to. They've seen it firsthand, Mateo smiled, and they'll never forget it. Aisha looked at the horizon. We didn't just survive. We taught them something bigger, Jared added quietly. That survival isn't just about skill, it's about heart. The group shared a moment of quiet pride not in themselves, but in the knowledge that they had changed the perspective of an entire generation of students. A lesson remembered across the university. Stories of the humans' survival spread. Alien students shared their experiences with friends from other schools. News traveled across planets and systems. The phrase became common: Deathworlders don't need training. The training is already in their blood. It was a lesson repeated in classrooms, training grounds, and dormitories. It was a lesson of respect, humility, and understanding. And it was a lesson the humans never had to teach with words, only with action. The aliens who had once mocked them now looked to humans as equals, even as they marveled at the courage and instinct that seemed second nature to these Deathworlders. Looking ahead, the humans continued their studies at the Galactic University, participating in courses, making friends, and observing new environments. They never forgot their own roots, the dangerous forests, deserts, and cities of Earth that had shaped their instincts. Yet now, they were more than just survivors of their own planet. They were teachers, examples, and symbols of resilience. Wherever they went, the legacy of their courage and adaptability followed. And in the hearts and minds of the alien students, the truth remained clear. Humans were not fragile, reckless, or lucky. They were a species of survivalists, shaped by a harsh world and tempered by challenge. They were the living proof that the galaxy could not define strength by technology or species alone. It was defined by spirit, intelligence, and heart. The end days, the stars shone over the Galactic University. The humans stood quietly together, watching new students arrive from across the galaxy. They smiled at the familiar pattern, the doubts, the curiosity, the eventual respect. And they knew, as they always had, that survival was more than skill. It was life itself, and they were born for it. The galaxy had learned a simple truth. When humans faced danger, they did not falter. They adapted, they survived, and they inspired others to do the same. And that lesson would endure for generations.